On October 23, 2025, the global stage is fixed upon a high-stakes diplomatic initiative proposed by former United States President Donald Trump. His plan involves direct talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, aimed at brokering a swift ceasefire and a subsequent peace agreement to end the protracted conflict in Ukraine. This proposal has injected a powerful, if unpredictable, variable into the complex calculus of international relations, prompting both cautious optimism and profound skepticism across world capitals. The initiative matters immensely because it represents a potential radical departure from the established diplomatic frameworks led by current administrations and international coalitions. This essay aims to provide a neutral, factual explanation of the timeline of events, the core components of the proposal, and the intricate web of reactions and potential consequences that follow this bold move. The core of Trump's proposition is a belief in the power of personal, top-level negotiation to cut through bureaucratic inertia and long-standing hostilities. We now begin. The origins of this peace initiative did not materialize overnight. For several weeks leading up to the formal proposal, Donald Trump used his characteristic communication style, dropping hints, making direct statements, public rallies, media interviews. He frequently articulated his desire for an immediate cessation of hostilities, framing the conflict as an unnecessary expenditure of lives, resources that could be resolved through decisive leadership. He often claimed the war would end very quickly, suggesting a deal was possible and readily achievable. These public comments were designed to build a narrative, signal his intentions to a global audience, create anticipation around his potential role as a peacemaker, and set the stage for a concrete plan. Parallel to these public pronouncements, a quieter series of discussions took place behind the scenes. Advisors, envoys engaged in back-channel communications with international contacts, diplomats from neutral countries, figures with ties to Moscow. These informal talks, track 2 diplomacy, were a crucial preliminary step. They helped his team gauge the political temperature in key capitals and test the waters for a formal proposal without public scrutiny. These were not official negotiations, but they shaped the eventual announcement, giving Trump's inner circle a sense of feasibility and framing. The initiative moved from speculation to reality with a formal public announcement. Trump declared his intent to personally engage Vladimir Putin in direct talks to broker a ceasefire. The announcement was intentionally concise, focused on stopping the fighting, rather than on intricate details that derailed past efforts. He emphasized speed and directness, saying the conflict could be settled by cutting through diplomatic red tape. The rollout ensured the news dominated headlines, forcing world leaders to react to his agenda. The immediate effect was to seize the narrative and put a Trump-mediated peace process at the center of international conversation. The proposal did not include a detailed multi-point plan or a formal written document, a tactic that left its substance intentionally vague. That ambiguity provided flexibility for negotiations and made it harder for critics to attack specifics. The focus remained on a leader-to-leader summit aimed at a swift breakthrough. In the hours and days following Trump's public proposal, the initial response from Moscow was a study in diplomatic caution. The Kremlin, through its official spokespeople, said it was open to serious proposals aimed at resolving the conflict. But that openness came with heavy conditions. Russian officials insisted any dialogue must acknowledge new realities on the ground, a reference to territories it currently occupies. The language was deliberately non-committal, avoiding outright rejection and avoiding enthusiastic acceptance. That allowed Putin to seem reasonable while holding on to core strategic demands. It also put the onus on Trump's team to show how their plan would accommodate Russia's interests. The stance was a classic diplomatic maneuver. By signaling willingness to talk, Russia avoided being cast as the main obstacle to peace. Ukrainian officials said they welcomed initiatives toward a just and lasting peace. But any agreement must follow international law, including full restoration of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity within its internationally recognized 1991 borders. Zelensky's office said Ukraine would not accept deals negotiated over its head or deals that forced ceding territory for a ceasefire. Their message: peace is the goal, but not at the cost of national survival or independence. Following the initial flurry of public statements, the focus shifted to the less visible but critically important work of preliminary diplomacy. Small, specialized teams of advisors and diplomats began the complex process of exploring the feasibility of formal talks. This initial phase is not about negotiating peace itself, but about negotiating the terms of the negotiation. The announcement of a potential Trump-Putin summit sent immediate ripples through the halls of power in European capitals. Key NATO allies responded with a carefully coordinated display of cautious unity. Leaders in Germany, leaders in France, leaders in the United Kingdom. While no one openly condemned the idea of talks, there was a palpable sense of unease. The fear is that a bilateral US-Russia negotiation could sideline European interests and prioritize a quick end over a just, sustainable peace. The European Union issued a formal statement echoing these sentiments, stressing the importance of maintaining the unified sanctions regime and warning against fracturing transatlantic solidarity. Leaders of Eastern Europe, particularly Poland and the Baltic states, were more direct in their skepticism. Given proximity and history, they warned a deal rewarding aggression could embolden Moscow and threaten their security. China expressed general support for de-escalatory diplomacy, while analysts noted a successful Trump-led negotiation could reset great power balances. Many in the global South, hit by food and energy inflation, welcomed any path toward stability. The UN welcomed efforts aligned with the Charter and law, while cautioning against exclusionary processes. As diplomats work to set the stage for talks, they must confront the same monumental obstacles that have thwarted previous efforts. The most significant sticking point remains the question of territory. Ukraine stands firm on restoration of its 1991 borders, a position with strong public support and constitutional backing. For Kyiv, ceding territory would reward aggression and betray those who died defending it. Moscow is highly unlikely to relinquish territories it has annexed, particularly Crimea. Borders form the central Gordian knot of the conflict. A second hurdle is security guarantees. Ukraine seeks robust, legally binding protection akin to Article 5. Kyiv is wary of assurances like the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, which proved ineffective. Russia cites NATO expansion as a primary threat and may demand Ukrainian neutrality and a block on membership. Designing a security architecture to satisfy both sides has no obvious solution. Optimistic, though least likely, a comprehensive peace treaty with full Russian withdrawal, firm guarantees, reparations, and accountability for war crimes. More plausible, an armistice freezing the conflict without resolving political disputes, mirroring a Korean-style divide. Conversely, failure could prompt escalation, each side blaming the other and seeking battlefield advantage. The human cost would deepen, further destabilizing European security. As this diplomatic initiative unfolds, the timeline has led us to a juncture defined more by its questions than its answers. Donald Trump's proposal to engage directly with Vladimir Putin has initiated public announcements and the quiet, preliminary work of diplomatic teams. We have seen calculated conditional responses from Moscow and a firm, principled stance from Kyiv. Allies reacted with cautious support and anxiety, yet the path forward is shrouded in uncertainty. Can seemingly non-negotiable demands be reconciled? Will Russia consider withdrawal? Can Ukraine accept formalized losses? Who will monitor and enforce a ceasefire, and what prevents reneging once a deal is signed? Will European partners remain unified if compromises strain solidarity? Who will sit at the final table, and whose voice will carry the most weight? So far, public signaling, back-channel communications, and initial responses from the belligerents. Now come the formidable obstacles of territory, security guarantees, and deep mistrust. The coming weeks will reveal whether this is a masterstroke of unconventional diplomacy or a high-risk gamble that fails to bridge the chasm. The ultimate question is not just whether the war can be stopped, but what kind of peace might follow.